dreams, and the dangerous habit of saying, "I will do it tomorrow." This topic is very important because many people are not destroyed by failure. They are destroyed by delay. They do not lose because they are weak. They lose because they wait too long. They say, "Tomorrow I will study. Tomorrow I will start. Tomorrow I will change. Tomorrow I will follow my dream. Tomorrow I will say sorry. Tomorrow I will become serious." But slowly, tomorrow becomes a habit. Then tomorrow becomes an excuse. Then tomorrow becomes a lie. And one day, people look back and realize they did not lose time in one big moment. They lost it in small delays every day. This story will show you why today matters. It will show you why one small action now is more powerful than 1,000 plans for tomorrow. So watch this story till the end, because maybe this story will not only touch your heart, maybe it will wake you up. And if you are learning English, listen carefully. Repeat useful sentences. Feel the story. Understand the message. And practice English with this meaningful lesson. Part 1. The Boy Who Always Said Tomorrow. In a quiet town near Kyoto, Japan, there lived a boy named Haruto Mori. Haruto was 19 years old. He lived with his mother, father, and younger sister in a small traditional house. Behind their house, there was a narrow road. On one side of the road, there were old wooden homes. On the other side, there were cherry blossom trees. Every spring, pink flowers covered the street like soft snow. People came there to take pictures. Children ran under the trees. Old people walked slowly and smiled at the beauty of life. But Haruto rarely noticed it. He was always inside his room. His curtains were closed. His phone was in his hand. His dreams were in his mind, and his actions were always delayed. Haruto was not a bad boy. He was kind. He loved his family. He respected his teachers. He had a good heart. But he had one weakness that was slowly destroying him. He always said, "Tomorrow." If his mother said, "Haruto, please wake up early. You have to study," he replied, "Yes, mother. I will start tomorrow." If his father said, "Come to the shop and learn some responsibility," he replied, "Yes, father, I will help tomorrow." If his teacher said, "Your entrance exam is coming. You must practice every day," he replied, "Yes, sensei, I will study seriously from tomorrow." If his younger sister asked, "Brother, can you help me with homework?" he replied, "Not now, tomorrow." And if his grandfather called and said, "Haruto, visit me. I want to teach you something important," he smiled and said, "Yes, Grandpa, tomorrow, 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 tomorrow." That word followed him everywhere. It looked small. It sounded harmless. But slowly, it became the biggest lie in his life. Haruto had a dream. He wanted to become an engineer. He loved machines, old watches, small tools, and anything that had hidden movement inside it. When he was a child, he used to open broken toys just to see how they worked. He used to ask questions like, "How does this move? Why does this sound happen? What is inside this machine?" His grandfather, Kenji Mori, loved that curiosity. Kenji was a clock repairer. For almost 50 years, he repaired clocks as watches in a small shop near the old market. His shop was not modern. There were no bright lights, no big board, no fancy decoration. Only wooden shelves, glass boxes, tiny tools, old clocks, and the sound of time. Tick, tick, tick. Every clock in that shop had a different sound. Some clocks were slow, some were fast, some were loud, some were soft, some were broken and silent. But Kenji understood all of them. He used to say, "Every clock has a heart. You just need patience to hear it." When Haruto was small, He spent hours in that shop. He watched his grandfather open old watches with careful hands. He watched him clean tiny wheels. He watched him fix broken springs. He watched him bring dead clocks back to life. To little Haruto, his grandfather looked like a magician of time. But as Haruto grew older, he changed. He stopped visiting the shop. He stopped asking questions. He stopped practicing. He started spending more time on his phone. He watched videos about success, discipline, study routines, fitness, business, motivation, and dreams. But he did not take action. He saved videos but never used them. He made plans but never followed them. He wrote goals but never worked on them. Every night he felt guilty. Every night he promised himself, "Tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow I will wake up at 5 a.m. Tomorrow I will study for 6 hours. Tomorrow I will stop scrolling. Tomorrow I will help my family. Tomorrow I will become disciplined." But every morning the same thing happened. The alarm rang. Haruto opened his eyes. He felt tired. He said, "Just 5 more minutes." 5 minutes became 30 minutes. 30 minutes became 1 hour. Then the whole day became weak. He delayed one task, then another, then another. By night, he felt heavy again. He looked at himself in the mirror and whispered, "Why am I like this?" Deep inside, Haruto knew he was wasting time, but he did not want to accept it, because accepting the truth would mean he had to change, and change felt difficult. So he comforted himself with tomorrow. One evening, Haruto's father entered his room. His father was a quiet man. He worked hard in a small family store. He did not speak much, but when he spoke, his words were serious. He looked at Haruto and said, "You are young, but time is not young forever." Haruto looked at his phone and said, "I know, father. I will become serious soon." His father asked, "When?" Haruto said, "Tomorrow." His father became silent. Then he said, "Haruto, tomorrow is a word lazy people use to protect themselves from today." Haruto felt hurt. He said, "I am not lazy." His father replied, "Then prove it with action, not with promises." Haruto did not answer. He felt angry, but not because his father was wrong. He felt angry because his father was right. That night, Haruto could not sleep. He opened his notebook. On the first page, he had written many goals. Become an engineer. Pass the entrance exam. Learn discipline. Help family. Make grandfather proud. Under those goals, there were many dates, but every date had passed. Nothing was completed. Haruto stared at the page for a long time. Then he closed the notebook and whispered, "I will start tomorrow." Again. The same lie. The next morning, his grandfather called him. Kenji's voice was weaker than usual, but still warm. He said, "Haruto, can you come to the shop today?" Haruto was lying on his bed. He was scrolling through his phone. He replied, "Today? I have some work, Grandpa." Kenji laughed softly. "What work?" Haruto looked at his empty desk, his closed books, his unfinished plans, his wasted morning. Then he said, "Study work." Kenji stayed silent for a moment. Then he said, "I see. Then come tomorrow. I want to show you something." Haruto smiled. "Yes, Grandpa, I will come tomorrow." Kenji said quietly, "You always say tomorrow." Haruto laughed a little. "I promise, Grandpa, tomorrow I will come." Kenji did not laugh this time. He only said, "Be careful, Haruto. Sometimes tomorrow does not wait for us." Haruto heard the words, but he did not feel their weight. He said, "Okay, Grandpa, see you tomorrow." Then he ended the call. That day, Haruto planned to study. But first, he checked one video, then another. then messages, then games, then social media. Then he felt hungry. Then he felt sleepy. Then his friends called him outside. By evening, the day was gone. At night, he remembered his grandfather. He thought, I should have gone today. Then he relaxed himself. It is okay, I will go tomorrow. But tomorrow morning, it rained heavily. Haruto looked outside and said, the weather is bad. I will go later. Later became evening. Evening became night. Again, he did not go. The next day, he woke up late. Then he felt embarrassed to call his grandfather. He thought, I already delayed 2 days. What will Grandpa think? So he avoided the call. This is how delay works. First, you delay action. Then you feel guilt. Then guilt makes you avoid the person or the task. Then avoidance creates more delay. And slowly, one small delay becomes a wall. 3 days passed. Haruto did not visit his grandfather. He wanted to go. He really wanted to. But wanting without action is only imagination. On the 4th morning, Haruto's mother opened his room door. Her face looked different. Her eyes were red. Her voice was shaking. She said, Haruto, get ready quickly. Haruto sat up. What happened? His mother said. Your grandfather is in the hospital. For a moment, everything became silent. The phone in Haruto's hand felt heavy. His heart started beating fast. He stood up and asked, Is he okay? His mother did not answer. She only said, Hurry. Haruto ran. He did not brush his hair. He did not check his phone. He did not say tomorrow. For the first time in a long time, he moved immediately. On the way to the hospital, the city looked different. The same roads, the same shops, the same people. But Haruto felt like the world had become colder. His mother sat beside him in the taxi, silent. His father looked straight ahead. Nobody spoke, but inside Haruto, 1,000 thoughts were shouting. I should have gone. I should have visited him. He called me. He wanted to show me something. I said tomorrow. When they reached the hospital, Haruto ran through the hallway. His shoes made loud sounds on the clean floor. He reached the room and stopped at the door. His grandfather was lying on the bed. Kenji looked smaller than before. His hands looked thin. His face looked tired, but his eyes were still calm. Beside him, on a small table, there was a wooden box. Haruto walked slowly toward the bed. His throat felt tight. He held his grandfather's hand. It was warm, but weak. Haruto whispered, Grandpa, I am sorry, I was going to come. Kenji looked at him. He smiled softly. And then he said the words that would change Haruto's life forever. You were always going to come tomorrow. Haruto could not speak. His eyes filled with tears. For the first time, the word tomorrow did not sound comfortable. It sounded cruel. It sounded empty. It sounded like a thief that had stolen moments he could never get back. Kenji slowly moved his hand toward the wooden box. He said, I wanted to give you this in the shop. But maybe life chose this place instead. Haruto opened the box with shaking hands. Inside, there was an old pocket watch. It was silver. It had small scratches on the cover. It looked old, but beautiful. Haruto opened it. The hands of the watch were stopped. The time was 7:15. Haruto looked at his grandfather and asked, Grandpa, why is it stopped? Kenji took a slow breath. Then he said, Because every clock stops one day. Haruto looked down at the watch. Kenji continued, But before it stops, it gives us something. Haruto whispered, What? Kenji looked into his eyes and said, A chance. Haruto held the watch tightly. Kenji's voice became softer. Life is not lived in tomorrow, Haruto. Life is lived in today. Yesterday has already left. Tomorrow has not arrived. Today is the only place where your hands can work, your mouth can speak, your heart can love, and your life can change. Haruto began to cry. Kenji continued, "If you love someone, do not wait too long to show it. If you have a dream, do not wait too long to begin it. If you made a mistake, do not wait too long to correct it. If you want to become better, do not wait for a perfect day, because the perfect day may never come." Haruto said, "Grandpa, I promise I will change." Kenji looked at him deeply. "No." Haruto was confused. Kenji said, "Do not promise me tomorrow. Change before you leave this room." Haruto felt those words enter his heart like fire. Change before you leave this room. Not tomorrow, not later, now. He looked at the stopped watch again. 7:15. The time was frozen. But inside Haruto, something started moving. For the first time, he understood that delay was not small. Delay was not harmless. Delay was not just laziness. Delay was disrespect toward life, disrespect toward dreams, disrespect toward people who loved him, disrespect toward the time he had been given. He wiped his tears. He held his grandfather's hand more strongly, and in a low voice he said, "Grandpa, I will not say tomorrow now." Kenji closed his eyes for a moment. A small smile came to his face. Outside the hospital window, the rain had stopped. The sky was still gray, but a little light was entering the room. Haruto did not know what would happen next. He did not know how much time his grandfather had. He did not know how hard his journey would become. But one thing had changed. The boy who always said tomorrow had finally met the truth of today. Part 2. The first battle with today. After hearing his grandfather's words, Haruto did not feel like the same person. The hospital room was quiet. His mother was sitting near the window. His father was standing with his arms crossed. His younger sister was holding a small paper crane she'd made for their grandfather. And Haruto was sitting beside the bed, holding the stopped pocket watch in his hand. The time was still 7:15. Nothing moved. But inside him, everything was moving. His thoughts, his guilt, his fear, his regret, his shame, his love. His grandfather's words kept repeating in his mind, "Change before you leave this room." Haruto looked at his grandfather. Kenji's eyes were closed now. He was resting. His breathing was slow. Haruto wanted to say many things. He wanted to say, "I am sorry. I wasted time. I should have visited you. I should have listened. I should have been better." But this time, he understood something. Words were not enough. For years, he had used words, promises, plans, excuses, tomorrow, soon, later, one day. But words without action had made him weak. So Haruto asked himself, "What can I do today?" Not tomorrow, today. This question was new for him. Before, whenever life became difficult, he escaped into tomorrow. But now he had to face today. He opened his phone. Usually, his phone was a place of distraction, games, videos, messages, endless scrolling. But now, the phone felt different. It felt like a mirror showing him how much time he had lost. He opened his messages and typed to his teacher, "Sensei, I am sorry, I have not studied seriously, but I want to start today. Please send me one practice paper, I will complete it." His finger stopped before pressing send. A voice inside him said, "Do it later. What if your teacher thinks you are irresponsible? What if it is too late? What if you fail?" Haruto closed his eyes. Then he looked at the watch. 7:15. He pressed send. It was a small action. Very small. But for Haruto, it felt like breaking a chain. A few minutes later, his teacher replied, "Good. Start with one paper. Do not think about everything. Begin with today." Haruto read the message again and again. Begin with today. The words felt simple, but they were heavy with truth. Then he opened his games folder. His thumb moved slowly. He deleted one game, then another, then another. He did not delete everything because he suddenly became perfect. No, he deleted them because he knew they had become hiding places. Every time he felt pressure, he escaped there. Every time he felt guilty, he escaped there. Every time he did not want to face himself, he escaped there. And today, he did not want to escape. His sister looked at him and asked, "Brother, what are you doing?" Haruto said softly, "I am removing the things that steal my time." She looked at him quietly. Then she said, "Grandpa will be happy." Haruto did not answer. His eyes became wet again. A few hours later, the doctor said Kenji needed rest, and only one person could stay inside for some time. Haruto's father touched his shoulder and said, "Go home for now. Your mother will stay here." Haruto did not want to leave. He felt afraid. He felt like if he left, something bad might happen. But his father looked at him and said, "Your grandfather asked me to give you something." Haruto looked up. His father took a small key from his pocket. It was the key to Kenji's clock shop. Haruto held it carefully. His father said, "He told me yesterday. If Haruto comes, give him the key. Tell him the shop is waiting." Haruto's throat became tight. The shop is waiting, not tomorrow, waiting now. His father looked at him with serious eyes. Do not go there to feel emotional only. Go there and do something. Haruto nodded. For the first time, he understood that pain should not become only tears. Pain should become action. That evening, Haruto went to his grandfather's clock shop. The old market was almost closed. The sky was dark blue. Small lights were shining outside the shops. The streets smelled of rain, wood, and warm food from a nearby restaurant. Haruto stood in front of the clock shop for a long time. The signboard was old. Mori Clock Repair. He had seen this board many times in childhood. But today, it looked different. It looked like a door to his past, and maybe a door to his future. He opened the shop. A soft bell rang. Inside, the air was still. The shelves were full of clocks. Some were ticking. Some were silent. Some were open on the table with small screws beside them. Some were waiting to be repaired. The whole shop sounded alive. Tick, 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 tick. It felt like time itself was speaking. Haruto turned on the light. Dust was on the table. A cloth was hanging on a chair. His grandfather's tools were arranged carefully. Tiny screwdrivers, small brushes, metal parts, magnifying glass, oil, old notebooks. Everything had a place. Everything had discipline. Haruto looked at the workbench and felt ashamed. His grandfather had spent his life repairing time, and Haruto had spent years wasting it. On the table, there was an envelope. His name was written on it. Haruto opened it slowly. Inside, there was a note from Kenji. It said, "Haruto, if you are standing in this shop today, then do not only remember me. Work. Time respects action, not emotion. Do 3 things before you leave. Clean the table. Repair the small blue clock if you can. And write 1 honest page about what you have been delaying." Haruto sat down. His hands were shaking. 3 simple tasks. Clean the table. Repair 1 clock. Write 1 honest page. They looked small, but to Haruto, they felt huge. Because the real battle was not the table. The real battle was his habit. His old voice came back. "You are tired. Today was emotional. You can do it tomorrow. Just close the shop and come back later. Haruto almost believed it. Then he looked at the stopped pocket watch in his hand. 7:15. He whispered, "Not tomorrow." He picked up the cloth and began cleaning the table. At first it felt meaningless. How could cleaning a table change his life? But slowly he understood. This was not only cleaning. This was obedience to the present moment. This was his first proof that he could act now. He cleaned the dust. He arranged the tools. He put the screws in a small box. He wiped the glass. He opened the window for fresh air. The shop slowly began to look alive again. Then he looked at the small blue clock. It was sitting on the left side of the table. It had a cracked surface. The second hand was not moving. Haruto remembered this clock. An old woman had brought it to Kenji many weeks ago. She had said it belonged to her late husband. Kenji had told Haruto once, "People do not bring clocks only because they want time. Sometimes they bring memories." Haruto touched the blue clock gently. He did not know if he could repair it. He had watched his grandfather many times, but watching and doing are different things. This is where many people fail in life. They watch motivation. They watch tutorials. They watch success stories. They watch other people doing difficult things. But when their own hands must move, they become afraid. Haruto was afraid too. He opened one of Kenji's old notebooks. There were drawings of clock parts, instructions, small warnings, notes written in careful handwriting. Haruto read slowly. Then he opened the back of the blue clock. Tiny parts appeared inside. Wheels, springs, screws, a small world of movement. He tried to understand it, but it was confusing. He made one mistake, then another. A screw fell on the floor. He searched for it for 10 minutes. His back hurt. His eyes felt tired. He wanted to give up. He said to himself, "I do not know how to do this." Then another thought came. Maybe I should wait. I will learn properly tomorrow. But this time, he caught the lie. Tomorrow was trying to enter again, not loudly, softly, comfortably, like an old friend. But Haruto now knew the truth. Tomorrow was not always a friend. Sometimes tomorrow was a thief wearing a friendly face. So he stayed. He read again. He tried again. He failed again. He adjusted one small wheel. Nothing happened. He cleaned a tiny part. Nothing happened. He moved the spring carefully. Still nothing. An hour passed. Then 2 hours. The shop became quiet outside. Most people had gone home. Haruto was alone with the clocks. For the first time in his life, he was not searching for entertainment. He was not checking his phone. He was not escaping. He was focused. Completely focused. His mind was tired, but his heart was awake. Then suddenly, after one small adjustment, the blue clock made a tiny sound. Tick. Haruto froze. Then another sound came. Tick, then another. Tick. The second hand began to move. Slowly, weakly, but it moved. Haruto stared at it. His eyes filled with tears. It was not a perfect repair. The clock was still old. The glass was still cracked. The sound was not smooth. But it was moving. And in that moment, Haruto felt like the clock was not the only thing being repaired. Something inside him had also started moving again. He whispered, "I started today." This was the first time he felt real pride. Not the pride that comes from showing off. Not the pride that comes from praise. But the quiet pride that comes when you keep a promise to yourself. Then Haruto took out his notebook. He remembered the third task. Write one honest page about what you have been delaying. At first, he did not know what to write. Then the word slowly came. I delayed studying because I was afraid to fail. I delayed visiting Grandpa because I thought he would always be there. I delayed helping my father because responsibility felt heavy. I delayed my dream because dreaming was easier than working. I delayed discipline because comfort was easier than pain. I delayed change because I wanted the result without the struggle. He stopped writing. His hand was shaking. He had never spoken so honestly to himself before. Then he wrote one more line. I was not waiting for tomorrow. I was hiding from today. That sentence broke him. He put the pen down and covered his face. He cried silently in the shop, not like a child crying for attention, but like a person finally meeting himself. For years, he had blamed time. He said, I do not have enough time. I will do it when I have time. I will start at the right time. But now he understood. The problem was not time. The problem was his relationship with time. He used time like it was endless. He treated today like it was ordinary. He treated tomorrow like it was guaranteed. And he treated his own life like it could wait. That night, Haruto stayed in the shop until late. Before leaving, he placed the blue clock on the clean table. It was still ticking. Then he took the practice paper his teacher had sent and printed it from a small printer in the shop. He sat down again. He did not want to study. His mind was tired. His heart was heavy. But he remembered his grandfather's note. Time respects action, not emotion. So he studied for 30 minutes. Only 30 minutes. He answered some questions wrongly. He did not understand everything. He felt slow. But this time, he did not hate himself. He did not say, I will become perfect tomorrow. He only said, I have started today. When he returned home, it was late. His father was waiting near the door. He looked at Haruto's tired face and asked, Did you go to the shop? Haruto nodded. His father asked, Did you do anything? Haruto showed him his notebook. His father read the honest page. He did not smile. He did not praise too much. He only closed the notebook and said, This is the first real thing you have written. Haruto understood. Real change does not need big words. It needs truth. That night, Haruto did not sleep easily. His heart was full. He thought about his grandfather. He thought about the clock. He thought about all the days he had wasted. But he also felt something new. A small light. A small strength. A small belief. Maybe he was not finished. Maybe he could still change. Maybe his life had not ended in delay. Maybe today could still become the beginning. The next morning, Haruto woke up before the alarm. Not because he had become perfectly disciplined, but because something inside him was awake. He looked at the pocket watch beside his bed. 7:15. Still stopped. Still silent. Still teaching. He sat up and asked himself the question his grandfather had planted inside him. What is one thing I must not delay today? He opened his notebook and wrote the answer. Visit Grandpa, study 1 hour, repair one more clock. 3 actions, small, simple, possible. But for Haruto, they were no longer ordinary tasks. They were proof that he was choosing life. He washed his face, he cleaned his desk, he opened his book, and for the first time, he did not wait for motivation. He began. That morning, Haruto learned one of the deepest lessons of his life. The first battle is not against the world. It is against the part of you that always wants to delay. And if you can win one small battle today, you can slowly change your whole life. Part 3. The daytime became real. The next morning, Haruto went to the hospital. His grandfather Kenji was awake, looking out of the window. Haruto sat beside him and said, Grandpa, I went to the shop. I cleaned the table. I repaired the small blue clock. And I wrote the honest page. Kenji looked at him and asked, "What did you learn?" Haruto looked down and said, "I learned that I was not only lazy. I was afraid. I delayed studying because I feared failure. I avoided responsibility because it felt heavy. I made promises because promises were easier than action." Kenji nodded slowly. "That is wisdom, Haruto. A person changes when he understands the real reason behind his weakness." Then Kenji said, "Delay slowly steals life. Some people delay because they are scared. Some delay because they want perfection. Some delay because they think tomorrow will save them. But tomorrow cannot save a person who keeps wasting today." Haruto held the stopped pocket watch tightly. Kenji continued, "When I was young, I wanted to become an inventor. But I waited for the perfect time. That time never came. Responsibility is not wrong, but I regret not giving even one small hour to my dream." Haruto's eyes became wet. Kenji held his hand and said, "Life does not ask you to do everything today. It only asks you not to betray today." That sentence stayed in Haruto's heart. Then Kenji said, "Do not build your life on mood. Build your life on meaning. Mood changes, meaning stays." Haruto wrote it in his notebook. He asked, "What if I fail?" Kenji smiled softly. "Then fail today and learn today. Failure gives lessons. Delay gives regret." Before Haruto left, Kenji said, "Go to the old temple road. Remember the boy you were before fear entered your heart." That afternoon, Haruto went there. He remembered his childhood. He remembered running with a wooden airplane. He remembered wanting to build machines. He remembered believing life was full of possibilities. Then he sat on the temple steps and wrote, "What will I become if I keep living like this?" His answer was simple, a man full of regret. Then he wrote, "What can I become if I start today?" He answered, "A disciplined man, a useful man, a man who does not waste his life." On his way home, Haruto saw a little boy crying because his paper airplane had fallen into water. Haruto folded a new paper airplane and gave it to him. The boy asked, "Will it fly?" Haruto looked at the sky and said, "Only if you throw it." The boy threw it. It flew for a few seconds and fell, but the boy smiled. Haruto understood something deep. A dream cannot fly inside your hand. It flies only when you release it into action. From that day, Haruto followed one rule: one small thing today. If he could not study for 5 hours, he studied for 30 minutes. If he could not repair a difficult clock, he cleaned the parts. If he could not fix his whole life, he fixed one habit. But one night, the hospital called. Kenji's condition had become worse. Haruto ran through the rain. This time, he did not wait. When he reached the room, Kenji was very weak. Kenji whispered, "Did you go to the shop?" Haruto said, "Every day. Did you study?" "Yes, Grandpa. Not perfectly, but every day." Kenji smiled. "A moving life is better than a perfect plan." Then he whispered, "Do not become a man who remembers life only when death comes near. Remember it every morning." Haruto pressed the stopped watch against his chest. He knew his life would not be easy, but now it would be real. Part 4. The Boy Who Stopped Waiting. Kenji passed away before sunrise. The town was quiet, but in his small shop, hundreds of clocks kept ticking. Tick, 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 as if time did not stop for anyone. At the funeral, many people came. They spoke about Kenji's kindness, patience, and quiet help. Haruto realized something important. His grandfather was not famous, he was not rich, but he had touched people's lives. quietly, honestly, daily. And that is also success. After the funeral, Haruto went to the clock shop. The chair was empty. The silence hurt him. He cried for the calls he delayed, for the visits he missed, for the time he wasted. Then he stood up, placed the stopped watch on the table, and said, "I will not waste what you left inside me." From that day, Haruto changed. Not perfectly, but seriously. He woke up early. He studied every day. He repaired clocks after school. He helped his family. And every night he wrote one question: what did I do today that my future self will thank me for? His answers were small. I studied. I repaired one part. I helped my sister. I did not quit. Small actions became small victories, and small victories became a new life. Months later, Haruto took his entrance exam. He was nervous, but he had prepared honestly. When the result came, he passed. Not with the highest score, but he passed. That evening, he placed the result paper beside the stopped watch and whispered, "Grandpa, I started." Years passed. Haruto became an engineering student. He still repaired old clocks during holidays. Some students laughed and said, "Why repair old clocks? The world is digital now." Haruto smiled and said, "Because old clocks taught me the value of new time." One day, Haruto gave a presentation at university. He brought the stopped pocket watch and said, "This watch does not work, but it changed my life." Then he told his story. He spoke about delay, regret, his grandfather, the clock shop, and the question that saved him. What is one thing I must not delay today? After that, Haruto started making short videos about time, discipline, family, and starting today. One video became popular. In it, he said, "If you keep saying tomorrow, ask yourself this: are you planning your future or escaping your present?" Many people were touched. One student started studying. One daughter called her mother. One man apologized to his father. One boy started his dream. Haruto understood that his grandfather's lesson had not died. It was moving from one heart to another. Years later, Haruto opened a small learning center beside the old clock shop. He called it the Today Room. On the wall, he wrote, "Start small, start honestly, start today." Every morning, he showed students the stopped watch. One student asked, "Sensei, why don't you repair this watch?" Haruto smiled and said, "Because this watch is not broken anymore. It already repaired a life." Then he said, "One day, every clock stops. Before that day comes, you have a choice. You can delay your life, or you can begin. Tomorrow is not always a lie. Sometimes tomorrow is hope. Sometimes tomorrow is planning. But tomorrow becomes a lie when you use it to escape today. When you say, 'I will study tomorrow but never open the book today. I will change tomorrow but repeat the same habits today. I will start tomorrow but waste today.' That is when tomorrow becomes dangerous. Life is not built in tomorrow. Life is built now. Today is where your hands can work. Today is where your voice can speak. Today is where your habits can change. Today is where your dream can begin. Do not wait for the perfect mood. Mood changes. Do not wait for perfect confidence. Confidence comes after action. Do not wait for perfect time. Time is already moving. Start with one sentence, one page, one call, one apology, one honest action. Because one small action today can change your whole future. So ask yourself, what is one thing I must not delay today? Do it. Because one day every clock will stop. And when that day comes, the question will not be, what did you plan to do? The question will be, What did you actually live? So use today. Respect today. Begin today. Because tomorrow is a lie when it steals your action. But today is truth. Today is power. Today is life.